If you think, that you look at everybody that's in government, if you think those guys, you're mistaken.
Ed, let me ask you: have you seen any commercials with Ron Reagan? Ron Reagan,
Actually, I just saw Ron Reagan was on tonight on MSNBC.
he's
I listened to. I saw his commercials, and
yeah, he
Michael Reagan and Ron Reagan. I've called Michael Reagan, talked to him back in the '90s when he was a big talk show host. And of course, Michael and Ron are two different guys. Michael
oh
coming
yeah.
from Ron's first marriage, and then Ron coming from his astrological mama. Uh, he's got a whole different vision, man. You know what? It's all right. You can have that vision. You know what I mean?
No, because he's talking about basically he's on a kick. He belongs to an organization to keep religion basically out of politics. Okay, because he is an atheist.
Well,
And he says,
right.
he ends the commercial by
Yeah,
say,
I saw him.
he says, "This is Ron
But
Reagan, not afraid to burn in hell." You know.
yeah, I remember that. I see that commercial, and I just saw him tonight. He was on MSNBC tonight, and he has this vision, and that's fine. He has his right to speak that.
Oh, sure.
I don't necessarily, I don't agree with him,
Well, what about
but
keeping
everybody
religion
agrees
out
with
of
everybody.
politics? Shouldn't we do
Well,
that?
actually, we should keep politics as limited as possible. We don't have limited government. Our founding fathers were, most of them were Christians, although Jefferson himself, the deist, which was kind of, he believed in a creator, so he was pretty close to him. But in fact, a lot of people in the election of 1800 thought he was like antichrist, da da da. They said all kind of things about him, but he still won the election, and he was still a good guy. He just didn't believe in the miracles of Christ. He actually his book is called Jefferson Bible, the only book he ever wrote, besides 10,000 letters and all kind of Declaration of Independence and all kind of other stuff. But in his book, he just said he didn't believe in the miracles of Christ, but he thought he was the most moral teacher, and that Christianity is the most conducive to liberty. But if you have liberty, and we get back to our founding documents, keep government limited, yes. If you keep government very limited and doesn't try to take care of all the people, then fine. I'm all right with that. But when you start making government the caretaker of everybody in a utopian type situation, it's wrong. And then that I would disagree with. If government was limited, we wouldn't really have the thing. They will be up to the local areas to rule themselves. And it gets down to the fact that if you want government for everything, then government's going to say you don't have the right to freedom of speech and freedom of religion. If government's limited, we don't have to worry about that. Then the best religions will have their say, because there's not going to be very much government. Government's going to be very small, and it was at first, up until the Civil
Well,
War.
but then again,
You wouldn't find any federal government.
we only had
I mean, you
13
had millions of
colonies.
people. Well, no, up to the Civil War, we had 25 states,
Yeah, I think 24 or so.
and 24, 25. But they were doing fine. It's in its thing, and you would have a hard time to find federal employees. And in most of your life, in local community, you would never meet a federal employee. You wouldn't even know about the federal government that much. Everything would be done locally, and that's what I'm for. Now, Ronald Reagan, or not Ronnie Reagan, not the president, but his son, Junior, he would want big Marxist government outlawing, saying, like Karl Marx did, that religion's the opiate of the masses, and it needs to be stomped out. And we need bigger and bigger government to take care of everybody. That's not the right way to go.
Well,
And that's not the way our founders wanted us to go. You might want us to go that way. I know Ronnie Reagan wants us to go that way. Michael Reagan, of course, wants us to go the opposite direction. But I don't even know how much Michael. Because see,
I don't think he has much of a political voice anymore.
You know how I feel about it. My biggest thing is, hey, one of the biggest. I'm big on unalienable rights. Unalienable rights is a Bill of Rights. It brings sovereignty to the individual, and we have the right to overturn. Just on if we had it overturned here, a guy was growing marijuana plants down here in Florida, and the jury says not guilty, and that's how we overturned alcohol. It's up to bringing it back to the trial by jury, making people understand what unalienable rights are. That's what our founders were about: limited government and unalienable rights. That's what I'm for.
Now, do you believe in local militia?
If you have limited government, there's not going to be much said about religion because there's not going to be much government.
Do you believe in
But if
local?
you have maximum government, what we got today, we got maximum government. We do not have limited government. This is the hugest, most massive, the most ugly government that ever existed on the face of Earth, and it's harassing our people. I'm an unalienable rights activist for marijuana. I have to fight my fellow people that say they're for the Constitution, but they're still throwing, arresting 700,000 to 1 million people a year for marijuana, and state by state we're overturning their bad law. I remember a couple of weeks ago there was a guy on, he just wants to throw marijuana people in jail. It's like, is that what we're going to do?
Yeah, that was Mike. That was Mike. Yeah.
He wants to throw us all in jail. It's like, come on, get real, man. That's a bad law. It needs to be overturned. There's a lot of bad law. We need limited government.
You would empty out a lot of prisons. You would empty out a lot of prisons if,
a lot of people already got emptied out in Colorado and Washington and Oregon. Thousands upon thousands of people are already let out. We got to end this war on drugs. We don't need 2.5 million people in prison because of over half of them because of the drug war. And that's where the conservatives miss the message. They think that we need big government to engage people. I don't know where he calls himself a conservative and he wants to put human beings in cages for pot. Get out of here. He's not a conservative.
Now, how about
immediately? And if Trump really is a conservative, he should come on and say, we're ending the war on marijuana tomorrow. We're going to start growing marijuana because it's a great natural resource. Henry Ford grew marijuana.
Well, the Republican Party, they can't do that because of the evangelicals. Well,
it's not just, in the evangelical, there's a lot of evangelicals that are understanding that we shouldn't be, that Genesis 1:12, the earth brought forth grass bearing seed after its kind, and the tree bearing fruit after its kind, and God saw it was good. It's good. That's, we need to realize those things. And, it's like the evangelicals need to get a grip of it. You don't put people in cages because they have a problem with alcohol or drugs or something. We need to decriminalize it, devaluize it, get rid of the DEA automatically. That's what I hate about Reagan the most. The two most, and actually, I'm for protecting our borders. The Rome fell because it was overrun. But Reagan, he actually signed an amnesty bill. The Democrats were jumping on the ceiling, and he went with tip on nail on that, and he signed the amnesty and gave citizenship to illegals. And that's what started us in this process we're at now.
Do you think we should have local militias?
Local militias are all right. Hey, if you want to get I've had a lot of friends in local militias, and the right to bear arms is fine.
No, I'm talking about instead of a centralized army.
A lot of my friends were, and still are, members of local militia. And they believe that they have the right to protect themselves, the right to protect their community, and that's good. We don't want we don't want a centralized government like they have in North Korea, Kim Jong-un, or in Cuba, Castro brothers, you can't own a boat there unless they give you permission. Only 5% of their population has the internet. Should I take all your internet off of you? You want me to take your internet off of you? See, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about liberty. We're talking about unalienable rights. That is American exceptionalism.
Well, you have to admit one thing, though.
And then people like Mike that want to keep marijuana illegal, they are the problem, not the solution.
Yeah. Well, right now,
it's been around for thousands of years, and people have been using it for thousands of years. And Henry Ford grew it, and George Washington grew it, and Thomas Jefferson grew it. We do not need a DEA. It needs to be shut down. I wish Trump would shut that down. Are we going to get Trump to shut that down? I doubt it. Is he going to shut down the Department of Education? I told you how I felt about that. I doubt it.
Well, I think that's why they hired that lady to shut it down.
Well, maybe she will. You know what? And he did put a freeze on new hires.
Yeah.
So maybe, you know what I mean? As far as, if I look back at every president in my lifetime, it's like I was only a kid when Kennedy got shot, but, as a teenager under Johnson, and I fought hard on the streets to get rid of the draft and impeach King Nixon. He resigned, fortunately. But, I remember them demonstrations in D.C. and different places. And we did get rid of the draft because the draft is unconstitutional. But you'll still have idiots to say, let's restore the draft. It's involuntary servitude. Come on, man. It's involuntary servitude. If I want to go fight, I want somebody who wants to be there. I'd rather have one person that wants to be there than 3 people that are drafted. I don't want to fight. Oh, I'm scared.
That's always going to be an argument because, you get into a big war.
I've been battling for legalization of marijuana since 1970 and against the draft since 1970. And we finally got the draft resolved, and we're finally starting to get pot legal. And I've been trying to shut down nuclear power since the 70s. And nuclear power is on its way out for most of the world, and including the United States, because it's nothing about true power. It's just about making bombs. If you look into the nuclear industry, it is crony capitalism. Actually, GE and Westinghouse never wanted to produce electricity, but the government says if you don't produce it, they says we can't insure it. That's what 57 Price-Anderson Act is about. So we got all this stuff, coming at us, from big brother government that thinks that they know what's good for us. Worship the Federal Reserve note. Forget about liberty. That's what they're about. They're about worshiping the Federal Reserve note and forgetting about liberty. And we need to reinstate liberty in this country. And that means I don't have to buy anything the government tells me I have to buy. Thank you, Mr. Obama, Mr. Roberts especially. Well, it's just a tax. What an asshole Roberts is.
Well,
You should outlaw that right from the get-go. We want to be in this.
Okay, we seem to be dwindling down a little bit.
Yeah.
Ed, I want to break for a song because we're sort of obligated to play a few songs. Now, I really,
actually, I gotta get going here, anyways, guys. I love you guys.
But before you hang up,
man, thanks for calling. We like to have you.
Yeah, I have a different perspective than most, but you guys got your perspectives. Everybody's got their own perspectives.
Hey, listen,
Mine's very limited government and pro-liberty.
Well, the bottom line is that's still what makes America such a great country, that we can have our differences and we can talk about it openly, okay, and it's fine.
Exactly. And that's why I like 50 states. I don't even care if you want to live in if we have the California state of socialists, that's fine. Go over there and let them do it. Keep the federal government and let the states, and you can have a state of communism and you're a county in your own state or whatever. And the farm in Tennessee, if you look at the farm in Tennessee with Stephen Gaskins and what he did when he took the hippies from in the 60s and it's still going today, and I have friends that raise kids there and stuff. But that's what it's about, diversity, and bring in different views. And I understand people love the DEA and power